All right, don't tell my wife, but I've been cyber stalking my girlfriend again. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Estate Daily with the House Heroes. I am Ryan Lineker. Here we go over the latest in real estate news as it pertains to mortgages, real estate sales, and the like. If you like what we're talking about, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe for more information just like this. But let's jump into it. All right, here we go. My girlfriend, Diana Olick, has her girlfriend, Danielle Hale, hanging out, chatting real estate. And what were they talking about? Well, they're talking about it becoming staying actually a seller's market. So I was surprised Diana wasn't saying that sky is falling still. Sounds like she's changing her pace, turning over a new leaf. Maybe we should give it a go again. I don't know. We might be in that whole love connection. But anyways, existing home supply. It is down. I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday. It is down 13% from November, but is up 10% from December of 21. So we're bouncing under 1 million units of homes for sale with a population of 330 million people. And that equates to a 2.9 month supply of homes. In a balanced market's actually between 4 and 6 months of supply. I know we kind of went over a little bit of that yesterday. If you haven't watched that video, I would go watch it because there's some good data as well in there from National Association of Realtors that just came out. But what I want to talk about today is what makes up a seller. Like, where do these sellers come from? And this is a cool little picture I liked, and it's dealing with the big D's. So I don't know, don't go down that, don't go Googling that. If you want this chart, just DM us, I'll give it to you, because I have a feeling if you Google this, it might take you to some sites you don't want to be involved with. But we've got the big 5 sources of sellers here, right? So we've got divorce, downsizing, disaster, debt, and default, death, disaster, downsizing, divorce, and debt. I think that's a tongue twister, but that's where they come from, right? So when you're talking about downsizing, we aren't seeing as many sellers who are downsizing sell right now. And why is that? Well, we've had historically low rates. And so a lot of them are locked into their housing payment. They don't want to downsize and get a smaller home, maybe even out of, further into the suburbs, right? Maybe a cheaper market, and actually pay the same amount in mortgage, interest, and taxes, or worse yet, pay more. So we have a lot of potential sellers sitting there, that would maybe downsize and buy another home, but it just doesn't make sense to, because their payment is going to be the same or not low enough for them to really outweigh, that change, right? That downsize. And that's one of the biggest problems we see, dealing with a lot of empty nesters now, people that are a little bit old, getting older, some of the boomers, they tend to have a lot of things and possessions that they are trying to figure out where to put them. And then also, again, just the payment. So that's downsizing. Now, divorce is always around. It's fairly constant. We are seeing sales due to divorce. So that, just kind of ebbs and flows. And what's interesting is in harder economic times, we normally see less divorces because people are just going to divorce sales. I'm not going to say divorces, but I'm going to say divorce sales, because people will actually cohabitate to make it cheaper. When it's good times and they've got good jobs, money's rolling in, they're not as worried, you'll see divorcees split up and go their separate ways and move out of that one household. Maybe one keeps it, one buys a new one, maybe they sell and they go both buy. But when economic times are tough, we see less real estate sales due to divorce. Like I said, they'll either hang out or stick it out. So from there, we go debt. We've got people who are maybe going through bankruptcy. Maybe they had a failed business venture, right? Maybe they just got themselves in over their heads with credit card debt. And we are seeing the nationwide consumer put more and more money on credit cards. So we're seeing the amount of credit being used, utilization going up. We're seeing the savings rate go down. And that is something that can lead to more sales down the road. Same thing with failed business ventures, right? When the overall economy takes a hit, we see some more bankruptcies, and a lot of times people will sell their homes to try and avert bankruptcy, maybe cash out, pay off debts, and things like that. Now, if you're in a situation like that, you definitely want to talk to an attorney. Many times you can keep your house while you go through a bankruptcy. If you can afford that payment still, you do have, some homestead rights and stuff like that. So I definitely talk to an attorney. But we do see debt and that, kind of push for people to sell. We are seeing that creep up a little bit, and it's not too noticeable now, but I think we will see a little bit more into the future as more and more people use more credit card debt. What happens is then they'll take their last 2 years of equity they've gained in that house. They'll maybe do a refinance at a higher rate, but the overall payment is going to be lower than what their credit cards are. Maybe their Razor they bought, their off-road car, their RV, their boat. They buy all these higher percentage rate items. They go ahead and streamline all that into their house payment, and they actually will save money monthly. And once they do that, now they're not as tied to that 2.7% rate they had, because they've now got a 6% rate. They're saving money monthly over what their mortgage was with all of their toys and credit card debt and all that stuff. So it's a monthly savings for them. But, if they keep running that up again, then maybe it's time to sell, cash out, and go rent. Or you'll see where they are more apt to do the downsize or more apt to move up because they're not tied to that rate. So, if they can get whatever house that they need to meet their needs, they're not going to be locked out of that because of their interest rate. So that's very interesting trends that we're seeing out of the debt side of stuff. It's going to be very interesting to watch how that plays out over the next 1 to 2 years, as I think it's going to take 18 months to 2 years to really see some of that factor its way into the market, especially here locally in SoCal. So you've got downsizing. We talked about that a little bit. Disaster. So, we do see sales, positioned on disaster. So if there's a forest fire, we have Prop 19 here in California. So somebody can go buy another home. And if they've been in there 30 years, they can get their tax year basis from 30 years ago. It's a huge benefit we've got. And so we're not just seeing a lot of sales because of disaster. We're not seeing a lot of purchases because of disaster. So that's just kind of a non-event right now as one of this mix of the big Ds. And then default, right? So what we think of back in the 07, 08, 09 market, when you had just a ton of defaults, people would not be able to make their mortgage payment, or they just didn't want to make their mortgage payment because they looked at the house next to them and it was worth half as much as what they owed on theirs, right? So you had strategic defaults going on. We just aren't seeing a big amount of defaults. People who might be in default that might lead for them to sell, they're equity sellers. So the actual buyers that are in default and distressed sales aren't actually listing at a huge discount, driving down other prices. So we're starting to see some of those sales inch up a little bit, but it's just not a big part of the mix. So this is one we're definitely going to be keeping our eye on, though, is we expect some of the debt related stuff to increase in some sales and listings going forward. We also expect some of the defaults to increase the number of homes for sale as well. So maybe they just can't make the mortgage payment. They tried a loan modification or forbearance, and they're just like, you know what, we're better off selling, taking all this cash out, resetting, getting a good foundation under us, and figuring out from there. But what's interesting this time versus 07, 08, it's just not this free falling crash that's leading more and more people, to default one after another, right? So we're not seeing that affect the market as a whole, but default buyers are going to be a piece of it. We do expect that to grow a bit, but not anything meaningful at this point in time. And then death. This is interesting because those sales that are death, right? Majority of those homes coming on the market are dated. What's interesting is these are great potential rentals. If you're looking for a rental out there, you know, the ones that are death, or you had, you know, maybe an elderly person moving to a nursing home or in with family, those are some of the best ones. Because I'll tell you what, grandma might have shag carpet and 1960s cabinets and some Formica or tile counters, but she kept her AC running. That roof was in good shape. The actual systems of the home were always updated because she wanted to make sure it worked well, but hey, it's dated. So that's a great rental. You can put somebody in there and rent it right away. You can go in and do a light rehab, some paint, some carpet, and put that on the market and start cash flowing right away. So death is a very interesting one right now. And I'm going to just say aging. Let's talk about aging as well. This is probably the most meaningful position that we see in our local market. You know, majority of the homes coming on the market, they are dated right now. Majority of the inventory is dated, and a majority of the buyers, since they're pushing all their chips in right now to buy most of them, they don't have the money or the want, right? The real desire to go in and do a project on top of it. They don't want to have this high mortgage payment and then go slap down $100,000 to do the rehab on top of it. And so we're seeing those homes sit a little bit longer on the market, and they, if they're priced right though, they move fast. So we're starting to see a split between the aged, dated homes and the fixed up homes. The fixed up homes are selling faster. They're selling at a premium, and there's a gap there. You know, at the peak of the market a year ago, 2 years ago, we weren't seeing any gap. You know, what would happen is whoever had the most money and could throw down 50 grand over an appraised value, they'd get that one that was all fixed up, you know, and set a new comp. And then a dated one would come up, and everybody who was like runner up, you know, the bridesmaid, they were the bridesmaid, never the bride. They were fighting over the one that was dated, but it would pretty much sell at that high comp again. We're not there. People want to see a discount for their sweat equity, for them to take the risk and the time to do these rehabs now. So I think that a majority of our market right now is made up by normal sellers, you know, job switch, move up, some move downs, you know, and the aging and the death that we're seeing. So what we're watching is the debt and the default to see if those help us at all. But right now, if you guys are in the market, I would absolutely be focused on looking at some of those properties where it was an aging seller. The property, a lot of times the systems are in good shape, but the property is just dated. And I would look at what those numbers really would take to do that rehab. There are some amazing renovation financing out there, or just really negotiate that price down. I would say if you're looking at something that needs work, do not be afraid to negotiate that price down. I know I just got back from a home inspection today. We got that property for 10% under the list price on it, and it is well under the comps that are in the area because it needs a lot of work. The buyer is going to be living in it. They're doing a full gut job, and they were able to get the price to be, you know, commensurate with that. So that's where we're at. Those are the 5 big D's of what makes up our inventory normally. And these are the 2 that we're hoping help us out down the road, the debt and the default. But again, we don't see that it's going to take any big impact on pricing with it from what we're hearing from our economists and from what we're feeling in the market. So thank you for joining us. If you have any questions about what I covered today, please hit us up. If you got any comments, you agree, disagree, definitely put them down in the comments section. We like hearing what you guys think. You guys are awesome. And again, thank you for being a subscriber and turning those notifications on. We really appreciate it. Thanks, and God bless. Peace.